It was just past midnight when the harsh fluorescent lights of St. Helena Hospital painted everything in sterile white. The corridors smelled faintly of antiseptic and loneliness. A man sat hunched over in the corner of the emergency room, his calloused hands trembling as they gripped a worn baseball cap. His eyes were red, not from fatigue, but from tears he could no longer hold back. The world outside slept, but inside his chest a storm raged without mercy. His name was Noah Kellen, and his 8-year-old son lay behind the glass doors of the pediatric emergency wing, fighting for his life. If you believe in kindness, miracles, and second chances, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Every story here reminds us that even in the darkest hours, compassion can change everything. Noah had never imagined his life would look like this. A single father barely holding on, his savings gone, his heart breaking a little more each day. 3 years ago, his wife Marcy had lost her battle with cancer, leaving him to raise their son Evan alone. Since then, he had done everything possible, working double shifts at the auto shop, skipping meals so his boy could eat, and smiling even when his soul felt empty. But tonight, his strength was gone. Evan's asthma had worsened suddenly. One moment they were watching an old cartoon on the couch. The next, Noah was driving through red lights, praying under his breath that his boy wouldn't stop breathing before they reached the ER. Now Evan lay unconscious, his small chest rising and falling under the rhythm of the ventilator. The doctors said they were doing everything they could, but Noah could hear what they didn't say. The uncertainty in their tone, the exhaustion in their eyes. He felt helpless, utterly powerless. His son was all he had left. Noah's lips moved silently as he stared at the glass door. Please, God, don't take him too. He wiped his face with the back of his sleeve, but the tears kept coming. Around him, the hospital buzzed with quiet urgency, nurses wheeling patients, doctors murmuring in hushed voices, but to Noah, it all felt distant, like he was trapped behind an invisible wall of grief. And then she appeared. A woman in her mid-40s, dressed in a soft ivory coat, her hair tied loosely at the back, entered the waiting room. Her presence didn't shout wealth, it whispered calm dignity. Her name was Vivienne Rowan, though Noah didn't know that yet. She was a widow too, a billionaire whose name once filled magazine covers and charity galas. But tonight, she looked nothing like the headlines described her. No diamonds, no entourage. Just quiet sorrow in her eyes as she glanced toward the children's ward. Vivienne had come to the hospital for a reason she didn't share with anyone. 2 years ago, her only child, Isabel, had passed away after a car accident on a rainy afternoon. Since then, Vivienne's life had been an echoing emptiness of charity events and photo ops, all meant to fill the void that nothing truly could. Yet somehow tonight, she found herself walking aimlessly down the same hallways she had once walked in anguish. Something drew her there, perhaps intuition, or maybe the quiet pull of shared pain. As she took a seat a few chairs away from Noah, she noticed his shaking shoulders. His face was etched with exhaustion and raw heartbreak. On the floor beside him lay a small plastic dinosaur and a half-eaten chocolate bar. Something in her chest tightened. For a long while they sat in silence. The only sound was the steady hum of machines beyond the glass. Then Noah let out a quiet sob, the kind that escapes when someone has run out of words. Vivienne looked at him, really looked, and in his pain, she saw her own reflection from 2 years ago. Without thinking, she reached into her bag and took out a handkerchief, simple white linen embroidered with the initials IRO, for Isabel Rowan. She stood, walked over, and held it out gently. "You don't know me?" she said softly, her voice steady but kind, "but I know what that kind of pain feels like." No blinked up at her, confused, too broken to respond. But her voice carried a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. He accepted the handkerchief, clutching it as if it were something precious. "My boy," he whispered, "is all I've got. They said it's bad, and I can't lose him." Vivienne sat down beside him, her eyes glistening. "I once said the same thing," she replied quietly, "and I lost her anyway." Her voice trembled at the edges, but she continued. "You never stop loving them, but you learn to carry them differently. You learn to breathe again. You'll have to, for him." They sat there for a long time, two strangers bound by grief and love. The hours dragged, each minute stretching painfully. Occasionally nurses passed with updates, but Noah's heart stayed in suspense. Around 3 a.m., a doctor emerged, face serious but calmer now. "He's stable," the doctor said. We've managed to open up his airway. He'll need observation, but he's responding." The words hit Noah like sunlight breaking through clouds. He exhaled sharply, a sound halfway between a sob and a prayer. "Thank you," he whispered over and over, clutching his cap to his chest. Tears streamed down freely now, tears of relief, of exhaustion, of gratitude. Vivienne smiled faintly, standing beside him. "He's strong," she said. "He's got your fight." No turned to her, his voice cracking. "I don't even know your name, ma'am, but thank you for sitting with me." She hesitated for a moment before replying, Vivienne Rowan." His eyes widened slightly. He recognized the name from the papers, a philanthropist, widow of the late tech magnate Adrian Rowan. But what stunned him wasn't who she was. It was that someone like her had sat beside a man like him. When morning light began to seep through the tall windows, Noah was allowed to see Evan. The boy's small hand lay limp on the blanket, but his breathing was steadier now. Noah sat beside him, whispering stories and promises about trips they'd take, games they'd play, and the world they'd explore together once he was better. Vivienne watched quietly from the doorway, her eyes softening. She could see the love between them, the unspoken bond that reminded her of what she once had. When she turned to leave, Noah followed her into the hall. "Please," he said, his voice still rough, "I don't know how to repay you. I didn't even tell you what happened, and you still stayed." Vivienne smiled sadly. "You don't owe me anything, Noah. Just love him fiercely. That's repayment enough." But as she began to walk away, she hesitated and turned back. "Do you have work support?" He sighed. "I fix cars. Been struggling since my wife passed. Rent's late again, and now with hospital bills." His voice faded. Something flickered in Vivienne's eyes, a mixture of empathy and determination. "I run a charity foundation," she said slowly. "We help families like yours, parents who just need a second chance. Come by tomorrow. No strings attached." Noah looked stunned. "Ma'am, she interrupted gently. "Vivienne, and it's not charity, it's compassion, the kind the world needs more of." The next day, after Evan was discharged, Noah went to the address she'd written on a small card. It wasn't some corporate office. It was a renovated warehouse turned into a community hub, filled with volunteers, free food programs, and childcare spaces. Vivienne was there, sleeves rolled up, speaking to staff, her calm voice guiding everyone. When she saw Noah and Evan, she smiled like an old friend. She offered Noah a job as a vehicle maintenance supervisor for their outreach vans. It wasn't pity, it was purpose. He accepted, overwhelmed but grateful. Weeks turned into months. Noah rebuilt his life piece by piece. He had a stable income, a safe home, and most importantly, hope. Evan recovered fully, his laughter returning to fill the small apartment they now lived in. He adored Vivienne, often bringing her hand-drawn pictures of cars and dinosaurs. One afternoon, Vivienne invited them to a park her foundation had sponsored. The three of them sat on a bench beneath a blooming magnolia tree, watching children play. Vivienne looked peaceful for the first time in years. "You know," she said quietly, "when I lost Isabel, I thought I'd never smile again. But seeing you two, it reminds me that love doesn't end. It finds new ways to show up." And Noah looked at her, emotion welling in his chest. "You saved us that night. I'll never forget that." She shook her head gently. "No, Noah, you saved yourself. I just reminded you how strong you already were." The sun dipped low, casting golden light over the park. Evan ran up, laughing, holding a dandelion in his hand. "Make a wish, Dad," he said brightly. Noah blew the tiny seeds into the wind and smiled at Vivienne. "I think mine already came true." And for the first time in years, Vivienne felt her heart ease. She knew Isabel would have wanted her to keep living, to keep giving. As they walked home, Noah thought about that long night in the ER, the pain, the fear, and the unexpected grace that had entered his life like a quiet miracle. Sometimes he realized angels didn't come with wings. They came with tired eyes, gentle voices, and stories of their own broken hearts. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps spread stories that remind us that kindness can heal even the deepest scars. Special request: comment below. I believe in kindness and second chances. Let's fill the world with hope, one story at a time.